Okay, so then 2011 rolls around. By this time, you haven't seen Whitey in, 12, 13 years?
Yeah, easily.
Did you have any idea where he was?
I did not. The last I heard, he was in Chicago.
Okay. So on June 22nd, 2011, 16 years at large, 12 years on the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list, a $2 million reward for him, the FBI finally finds him in Santa Monica.
Behind Osama bin Laden.
Right, yeah, he was the number 2 guy.
Yeah.
They find $800,000 in cash in the walls of his apartment.
And some guns.
30 guns, fake IDs. And he was living, I remember I saw like a 60-minute special on it. He was living very low key. He wasn't flashy, him and his girlfriend.
Yeah, Mr. Baxter.
Right. He was in his 80s at this point. Nobody had any indication that this was a hardened killer that's just living amongst them. But the FBI knew. So he gets arrested. He pleads not guilty to 48 charges, including 19 counts of murder, extortion, money laundering, obstruction of justice, perjury, narcotics distribution, and weapons violations. When you found out he got arrested, what did you think?
I got a text and they said they got the rat. That's exactly the text I got. They got the rat. Now, of course, I get the text. I was sleeping and I get the text. I look at it. Who's playing games, right? Then I look again. Johnny, they got Whitey. I said, holy fuck. I said, where? So I find out, Santa Monica.
Yeah.
I said, Santa fucking Monica? And I said, where in Santa Monica? So I find out where he was. I cannot tell you, Vlad, I walked by his place at least 4 times when I was in Santa Monica because my friend, producer of The Usual Suspect movie and The Way of the Gun, Ken Koken, lived 4 blocks right where he was. And I was out there with him, visiting him, and we walked by that fucking house. Could you imagine, Vlad, if I bumped into him? And I would have recognized him, of course. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if I bumped into him?
What would have happened?
Well, I always had this dream of bumping into him. And it was a dream that I had constantly. And it was in New York City that I bumped into him. And I grabbed him and pulled him into a doorway. And I asked him why. I wanted to know why. Why were you do the opposite of everything that you preached? Why did you give me up? Why did you give everybody up? Why? I wanted to know why. In the dream. He said, I was trying to protect you. I don't know. It's a dream.
That's all it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in that dream, after he said that, I grab him by his jaw and the back of his head, and I snap it. I snap his neck and kill him there on the spot. But
Okay.
unfortunately,
That never happened.
it didn't happen.
Right.
But I'm sure you're going to get to this.
Right. So he gets arrested. He pleads not guilty to all the charges. They extradite him back to South Boston
Yep,
and goes to trial on 32 counts of racketeering and firearms possession,
that is correct.
including 19 murders. The trial lasted 2 months with 72 witnesses.
That is correct.
Were you ever asked to be a witness?
Yes.
Really?
I was not asked, but they put me on the list.
Okay.
I got wind of it.
Okay.
Now, mind you, I was working. Well, he was going back every day from court. I was working on a construction site, going up and down on a lift, hoist of the side of the building of that construction site, and watching him brought in every morning with his parade of cops and cars and everything else. I goes, oh, there goes Whitey. And I knew that I was on that list. I called my attorney, Tony Cardinelli. I said, Tony, I'm on that fucking list. And mind you, I was doing multiple interviews on CNN saying, I'll tell you what, they asked me if I would be, would I testify against Whitey if he was, I said, there's no fucking way. There's no way I'll testify against him. I said, I will have contempt of court and go back to jail before I testify. I wouldn't rat on a Martian. Okay? So I called Tony Cardinelli. He called the prosecutor, and he said, listen, and I said this on the interview. I said, but I play poker, as I said to you. I'm a pretty good poker player. And I said, but if I decided that I didn't want to testify, I don't think it would be good for either side. I don't think it would be good for the prosecution, and I don't think it'd be good for Whitey either. So Tony Cardinelli called the head prosecutor. He says, you don't need Red. You got enough people cooperating. And they had Billy Shea, the head of the drugs at the time. They brought him up from Florida. And I heard he was quite elegant on the stand, if you will. And he talked about the drug organization. He talked about how they brought me in and recruited me at the trial. And they talked about, and he talked about how I had the best cocaine there was, the most potent cocaine, he said.
Well, I mean, you're actually in Boston while the trial's happening in Boston.
Yeah.
Were you ever tempted to just show up one day to the courthouse? No.
No.
Wanted no parts of it, huh?
Because I didn't want to see Whitey.
Oh, you didn't want to see him?
No, I didn't want to see him because I don't know if I could have controlled myself.
Oh, you would have just lunged at him in the courtroom?
I was, Tony Cardinelli, my lawyer, he said, stay away from there, Johnny. Okay. So actually I started doing interviews and stuff like that and reaping the benefit off the book. And by the way, when they caught him with all the guns and the money and everything, he had a small library.
And your book was there?
And my book was there.
Yeah, so he read your book.
Oh, he was reading the book, of course.